Hello, Matt here. Today I want to talk about some fundamental things about running a consulting organization and that really drive how you can lead, how you build your teams, how you scale, what systems you need. And the core insight came as I was growing and scaling my last consulting company. We had a new president at the time that I brought in, and he was talking about three things: our clients, our people, and our company, and that each of them needed to be treated like an iron triangle. Like you can't worry about one in isolation. All three are important. And I started thinking about that, and we ended up drawing a Venn diagram where these circles overlap to say, look, our client and our people have a relationship, and where those overlap is important to think about. Our company and our people have a relationship, and where those overlap is important to think about. And our company and our clients have a relationship, obviously, and there's an overlap there. What I've come to find is that when you're trying to scale your organization, when you're trying to figure out hard problems, the hard problems tend not to be isolated to one circle. If you have as a company, you need to do your taxes, you need accurate financials, you need good bookkeeping. That's a problem you can usually hire someone or hire a partner to do, and you can solve that fairly easily. If you have people and you need to be able to engage them and track their interests and understand what they're wanting to do with their careers, that's something, again, there's a lot of HR people and you can bring in people to solve that. If you have clients and you have a team there and you need to just solve their business problem that your business is expert at, you tend to be very good and can hire and find people that can do that work. So, in each of those areas, that's not where the big challenging things are around growing and around dynamically running your business. In those areas, I would tend to hire someone to own those areas and then have one-on-one meetings, set goals, and just lead them. Where I found it was critical to build a team and to really focus was at the overlap. So finding people that could collaborate around an issue. For example, I've got the client and the people overlap, and there's an inherent tension where clients want the person that's helping them to be there as long as possible so they continue getting the benefit of that. And the people who are in a consulting organization want to get a variety throughout their career. So the client may want them there over a long period of time. The people may want more variety so that they're at a couple clients a year. And all of a sudden you've got this tension. Now managing that isn't something that's simple. It's something that needs to be done consistently over time. And you have people who are advocates for both the people and for the client that can then sit in that tension and help address it and look at it from both places. Because if you go to a client and say, what you love about us is that we're bringing an outside perspective, over time, if you have one person there that's been there for 5 years, you're going to lose that outside perspective. Or you go to a person and say, part of your benefit of going from client to client is that you are being able to take the perspectives you learned at the previous client. You need to be able to stay there, embrace and acquire that learning before you move on to the next thing, right? So sitting in that tension, or sitting in the tension between a client and the company, saying, look, it's great that you want lower rates, and we need the work, but we also have to pay our people, and long term you want us to be a solid partner. So I need to teach you to care about my financial health as an organization as well as your financial health. Sitting in those overlaps is where all the nuances, where all the challenges, and ultimately building a team of people and experiences that can collaborate and work through that. It's rare that there's a right or wrong answer when you're dealing with issues in the overlap. It's rare that it's easy to say, well, this is the right thing to do. There's a set of choices. You need to pick one. You need to learn from it. You need to pivot if necessary. And in doing that, that means that you need a team that's working together, collaborating, and understanding that overlap. So let's think through some examples where either the client or the company overlap, or the people and the company overlap, and talk through how this nuance is, how things work out. Let's start with the people and the client overlap. As I said, you're going to have an inherent tension. I had a client who ultimately would always call me and want back the last person that was there. Over a 7-year period, they would call and say, Patrick was so awesome. I have this new project. Can I have Patrick to do this project for me? Once in a while, that was possible and it made sense. And often, I'd say, well, Patrick's not available, but Kevin's available. And they'd talk through and say, well, is Kevin going to be able to do this, that, and the other thing? And then I'd go there. We'd work through that, and then 6 months later, that project would be done. Later on, they'd call and say, I really need Kevin to help me out with this, right? Eventually, by having the different experiences and working through that, I was able to go to them and say, well, look, I know you always want the last person you had, but we always give you good people, and if there's a challenge, we adjust, right? So I'm building that for the client, and a part of that was just consistently providing great service, but part of that was also understanding that there's that tension, that and getting them to understand that they need to be able to see the benefit of when Patrick's successful or when Kevin's successful and moving on to the next thing. So one of the things we would do is have touch points with them, invite them to our events so that they could see the people that they had worked with and kind of take pride in the fact that they're succeeding and they're growing in the organization. So making it so that the client wasn't just constantly needing to retrain people, being really good at the transition, being really good at having a consistent offer and great people, but then giving the client insight into what Patrick's doing now, what Kevin's doing now, letting them be references and help those people along in their career. Invariably, they'd come back around and things would be successful. But ultimately, just knowing that tension existed gave some little techniques can make things a lot easier. Similarly with the people and the company overlap, right? People will have a career plan, and often their entire career is not going to be at your company. Often it's not going to be in consulting. So what I always wanted to do was understand people's career path, and knowing that we may only be a few steps along that path, how do we make sure that those steps are extremely positive steps? And if their next step is to go into industry or to do other work, how do I help them on those steps? Because many times I've had where people are working for the company, we're developing them, they end up going to a client or going into industry and then becoming a client. And now we're working with them in a different capacity. And then 3-5 years later, they may come back into the consulting world at a completely different level of capability, and again, be interested in working with your organization. So that relationship with a person in the company starts before they even join, right? Can we be helping them, teaching things, doing things through the interview process into the company? And a lot of times people end their relationship with a person at an exit interview, rather than saying, well, yes, you're moving on to the next thing. Let's get together in our alumni group. Let's have ongoing discussions. Let's continue to work together toward what you're trying to achieve and what we're trying to achieve in the marketplace. And ultimately, that overlap, if you see it too transactional between a company and a person and not a relationship, you're going to lose out on a lot of the value that can be achieved by really embracing that overlap. Clients and companies, we used to have a measure, and we said, look, our goal is customer delight. So customer satisfaction is one thing to say, are they satisfied with your work? Um, that's interesting. But we had three measures to say, to kind of measure that relationship between the company and our clients. So one, and it's fairly easy, is are they referenceable? Right? If I ask them, will they talk to someone else about it? And that's kind of the bare bones. Are they satisfied? Are they delighted? The second was, do they tell others about us within their company or their friends? So if they're out with a CIO friend of theirs and the CIO says, I've got this huge problem, I got this problem, if they say, hey, have you talked to Matt's company? I think they may be able to help you. Unsolicited, you didn't ask for the reference, they gave it, they told your friends, or they tell a peer in another department. That is a true measure that client company overlap is strong and that you're doing a great job. And the third measurement, so first is, are they referenceable? Do they tell their friends? And the third is, are they concerned about your profitability? Are they concerned about the financial health of your company, right? In the end, if you're truly a partner and you're not just a vendor, you're not selling, toilet paper, you're selling solutions. Ultimately, we want them to have a Rolodex where I call police, I call fire, and then I call our company, right? So if we want them to be truly a trusted partner and to really see that, then they have to want us to succeed. That doesn't mean that they just give us whatever rate we want. It means that in the end, they want us to be accountable for what we are. They want us to be able to thrive as a business so that they can lean on us for even bigger things in the future. So that measurement of that overlap is important. We had a similar measure on the people side, right? So not just, are the people um, are the people staying, right? So turnover is a lagging indicator of how you're doing between the company and your people. But are they talking to their friends about it? Will they refer other people into the organization, right? If people aren't happy, they may not be unhappy enough to leave, but they're not going to want to get other people into that situation. So ultimately, making sure you have a measure to know, how am I doing between my company and my people, and not just to have it be a lagging indicator, but what are the leading indicators? Are they referring people in? Are they participating in the interview process? Are they advocates out in the marketplace? That way I can measure how my people are doing. In the end, you can have a measurement of people and just ask them how they're doing, but you can look at their behaviors in the interaction with their clients and the interaction with your company and learn a lot more. Same thing with your clients and your company. Like, the interactions are what's critical. So I think when you're starting with an issue that as an organization you've had a hard time solving, you try to place it on that Venn diagram. Is it in the company circle? Is it in the people circle? Is it in the client circle? Or does it overlap? And if it overlaps, then you can see that there's going to be a tension. Now look at it from the company perspective. Let's say it's between the company and client circle. From the company perspective, why is this a challenge? Why is this an issue? And what is our interest in solving it? Then look at it from the client perspective. Why is it an issue for our clients? What is their interest in solving it? How do we solve that? And that way we start to get a better understanding of that, and we don't come up with simplistic things that may not be realistic in implementing. So I think what I really wanted to cover is just understanding that you're not in a business where you can just focus on one thing at a time. You end up playing whack-a-mole where you knock down a um, a client issue and not pops a people issue, or you knock down a people issue and not up pops a company issue, right? What you're doing is there's these interdependencies between these components. Understand those overlaps and embrace them and attack them. And that's when you're going to be able to work with your leadership team to truly solve those problems in a way that allow you to scale and grow as an organization.